They're open for you. It's our joy to pay for airtime, for you to call in and air your differences with me. Okay. You often hear accusations about synagogue of Satan, synagogue of Satan, synagogue of Satan. And it often comes against Jews today from black supremacists and white supremacists. They'll both throw it our way. Well, you're actually the synagogue of Satan. You claim to be Jews and you are not. So let's first look in context and see what Scripture says. And then ask a question. Are Hebrew Israelites today synagogue of Satan? How do we open this up? And why did I tell a Hebrew Israelite caller that he was of the synagogue of Satan, even though I don't know his ethnicity at all? In other words, whether he's Israelite blood or not, don't know that at all. He's just calling in. But why can I so emphatically tell him he was of the synagogue of Satan? So let's open up the Scriptures together. And then also in today's broadcast, we're going to go back into the ancient world and show you some really interesting images. Now, everyone listening, the vast majority of you are listening, not watching. I'm going to talk you through the images. But if you're able to watch later on our YouTube channel, Ask Dr. Brown on YouTube, then you'll be able to see these for yourself, okay? So first, we're going to get into the Scriptures together. So let's begin in Revelation, the 2nd chapter. Revelation chapter 2, and we'll put this up for those that are watching. Jesus is speaking to the church in Smyrna, excuse me. Revelation 2:8, to the angel of the church in Smyrna write the words of the first and last who died and came to life. This is a church in the midst of persecution. Verse 9, I know your tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the slander of those who say that they are Jews and are not, but are synagogue of Satan. So here's what we know, just based on the text, okay? We know that the people claimed to be Jews and were not. That means one of two things. It either means they weren't Jews, they were Gentiles claiming to be Jews, and they were opposing the gospel, they were slandering Christians, and they were therefore a synagogue of Satan. Or they were Jews, but by their actions they were not acting in a Jewish way, hence were of the synagogue of Satan in opposing the gospel. It's one of those two things. Either an ancient group of Jews that was hostile to the gospel, hostile to the Christians, slandering them, and God said, you're not really Jews, you're a synagogue of Satan. Or they weren't Jews at all. They claimed to be. There was some false group, cult, bizarre religion, whatever, claimed to be Jews and weren't, and were opposing the Christians. The reason they're called synagogue of Satan is because they are slandering and opposing the Christians. Now we go over to the book of Revelation, chapter 3. And what's interesting here is that out of the 7 churches in Asia Minor that Jesus addresses in Revelation 2 and 3, only 2 were not rebuked, Smyrna and Philadelphia. And he gives this promise to both of them because they were experiencing opposition. So Revelation 3, beginning in verse 7, to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens, no one can shut. And what he shuts, no one can open. I know your deeds. See, I've placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know you have little strength, yet you've kept my word and have not denied my name. I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan, but who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars. I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. So they are obviously causing trouble. They are obviously opposing the believers there. And Jesus is saying, no, they're going to come and bow before you. So again, and there's massive discussion in commentaries about this, but there are 2 obvious possibilities. In Revelation 2, the church in Ephesus, Jesus commends them. You tested those who claimed to be apostles and were not, right? So they claim to be Jews and they're not in Revelation 2, Revelation 3, could be referring to people who weren't Jews at all. They claimed to be Jews. They were Gentiles. They were opposing the gospel. Jesus calls them the synagogue of Satan. That's one option. The other option, they were actually Jews. But because Jews should have been embracing the Messiah and embracing the message of these Gentile Christians, and when they were opposing them and slandering the Christians, and perhaps even contributing to their martyrdom, Jesus said, you're not really Jews, you're a synagogue of Satan. Now, let me give you some interesting examples. Isaiah chapter 48.